Today's show is an AMA, Ask Me Anything. It's really an excuse because I'm kind of sick, haven't had time to put anything together, but let's see what you want to know. Right, so good morning, welcome. PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment First Live, 3 times a week show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific here at youtube.com/PhotoJoseph. Live, it's live, it's live. This is being recorded live. If you're not watching it live, it was recorded live. That's kind of an important thing to know. Everything you see is happening in real time and live, and the best part about being live is that you, the audience, get to participate in the comments. Like this, you can chit chat, I bring you up on screen, we can talk about whatever it is you want to talk about, especially today, being that it is an AMA, and Ask Me Anything. The reason we're doing an AMA today is because I've been kind of out ill, and I spent all day yesterday at home, and I'm really not totally there yet, so I didn't have time to prep a proper show today. So this is I haven't had time to prep a proper show. Say that 5 times fast, prep a proper show. And so we're doing this instead. I'd like to say that this sort of thing slows me down a little bit, but probably not. Probably just gonna move as fast as always. So let's start asking questions. Let's just get right into it. The whole point here again is you can ask anything you want. You pop it up in the comments here. If you have a question, put PhotoJoseph in front of it. You can see what that's doing on my screen here. It puts it nice and red, and I know you've got a question for me. Starting with Tony, just saying, you hope I'm feeling better soon. Well, I hope I feel better soon too. Thank you very much. I'll be there. I'll get there. You know, we're almost there. We're almost there. And Matt says, first AMA question, are you feeling better? Almost, sort of. Tony doesn't blame me. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, Construction Podcast says, I hope you're feeling better. Thank you. I'm trying to do HDR on the GH5 and I can't. Okay, can you help please? Also, I just installed your custom settings. Oh, cool. The custom settings, incidentally, I know I need to update those. I need to upload a new file because I've made a lot of tweaks since I uploaded that, but it's still a good starting point. Anyway, oh, and by the way, what he's talking about, the custom settings he's talking about, are part of my GH5 training, which, if I can figure out how to do this real quick, which incidentally, I have, that's right, I kind of messed up my graphics here a little bit. Here, let me do this. No, that's not gonna work. How can I do this? All right, I'm gonna do this first, ignore this slide. Actually, let's see, is this slide still valid? Till June, it is. Okay, let me remind you of this real quick, because this is almost over. There is a rebate on Leica lenses up until June 17th. What is today? Today is not the 17th. Today is before today's only the 6th. You got 11 days left to get these deals. So don't forget about that. But what I really wanted to show you is this, the GH5 training, gh5training.com. If you are a GH5 owner and you don't have this training, you should get it because it teaches you how to do all kinds of things. And actually this HDR is part of that, but I'll tell you what you probably are missing. So when you shoot HDR, internal HDR on the camera, you have to be in JPEG only mode. If you're in RAW or RAW plus JPEG, the camera will not allow you to select HDR because it can only build an HDR as a JPEG. Now, I get totally that I wish that I would be able to keep the original HDR file, original 3 bracketed files, as RAW files. That'd be fantastic. This is an upgrade I have requested many times. Haven't seen it come, no idea if it will come, but hopefully that will come at some point in the future. But what this whole thing is, if you're watching this going, what the heck are you talking about? Most people know what HDR is, right? High dynamic range photos. You generally, the idea being you take multiple photos, it could be 3, 5, 7, whatever, photos bracketed, maybe a stop or 2 stops or 3 stops apart. You take them into an app that will blend them into an HDR mode. There's a lot of different apps that do this. You can do it inside of Lightroom. There's a lot of, MacFun makes apps that do it. There's a lot of apps out there to do this. Anyway, so those apps will automatically blend the photos together. The camera, pretty much every Lumix camera, I believe, does this, will allow you to shoot HDR internally. And what it will do is it will fire 3 photos, and you can direct it to shoot them 1, 2, 3 stops apart, or you can just say automatic, and it will evaluate the scene and determine what bracketing it should do. It takes the 3 photos, and only does 3, it won't do more. It'll take your 3 photos and then blend them together automatically, and you get an HDR in camera. It's not as good as if you did it in post-processing. You don't have any kind of control, any finite control over it. What you get is what you get. But for many cases, it's good enough. And the case where I use it all the time is real estate photography. Because real estate photography is really, there's not a lot of money to be made in that business. It's kind of a get in and out as quick as you can type of business. And so I'll set my camera to shoot in HDR mode, hit the button, it fires off the 3 shots, and it makes that JPEG HDR. Now, I do wish that it saved those original 3 photos so that if that HDR didn't turn out, I could go back and redo it manually. So what I end up doing is I end up shooting both the HDR and bracketed photos, raw photos, so that I have them. I almost never use the bracketed raw photos. The HDR is probably 95% of the time, it's fine. But you know, there's occasions when you use something else. So that's what that's all about. So your camera is probably not set to JPEG mode, and that is most likely the problem. If it's not the problem, if you have time while we're doing this live show, go ahead and check your camera and then come back to me and we'll check it out. Okay, let's see here. Get back to the questions and bring this up here. Martin's saying, do I need a show producer? Ryan is, interesting. Ryan's my show producer, but he was very late this morning. He locked his keys in his house. He's just, you know, the things that you do. So that's why we're a little, I'm going to blame him. That's why we're a little kerfuffled this morning. He's in the room shaking his head right now. Ricardo Azevedo, sorry. I blame my, Ricardo says, if you could change something on the GH5 with another camera, what would you change? Oh, interesting. Like get a feature from another camera that's not in there. The high res mode in G9. I like that mode a lot. I would like to have that in the GH5. And people have asked, is it technically possible to add it in? I don't know. The way the G9 does it is because it has a stabilized sensor, it shifts the sensor. The GH5 does also have a stabilized sensor, so theoretically it could do it, but there might be something else in there that allows it, that means it can't be added via software to older cameras. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but I would like to see that in there. I think that would be a great feature to bring in. Monaco says, what device is Ryan using to talk into your wireless earbuds? Okay, so this whole setup here is enormous. We've talked about this in the past quite a bit. I'll actually link to we'll show up here that I did not too long ago, which kind of explains this whole system in brief, because it would take a lot longer to explain it in detail. But one of the parts of this system is, let me see if I can get this camera on here real quick, is this not mixing board, maybe call this audio interface. Let's see here, there we go. This audio interface, the X Air, Behringer X Air, and this has tons of inputs in it. So like this is my wireless mic right now. This is another mic. It's sitting up here for tabletop stuff. This is the chat computer, the computer that if I'm doing a Skype interview, a variety of inputs coming into here. You got the music for the house music when I'm offline, a whole bunch of stuff. One of these inputs, this blue one right here, is going to a microphone that is in the other room. It's actually my office, and that's where Ryan is right now. And the mic that he's using is a really cheap tabletop, what do they call it, podium mic. It's like on a gooseneck, and the reason we use that is because it has an on-off button on it. It's an XLR microphone with a on-off button. So he just reaches up and he hits the button to turn it on, so he can talk to me, hits it again to turn it off. It doesn't have push to hold, push to talk. You have to push and release. That's the only its only drawback. We'll link to that down below, because it took me a while to find that mic, one that wasn't crazy expensive, and it's not a talkback mic. A talkback mic is designed for exactly this purpose. Talkback mics are quite expensive for some stupid reason, so I basically jerry-rigged something else. I took this podium mic with an on-off button, plugged it into the system, and then through the audio interface, we control what I hear versus what you hear. And so that mic input, here I can actually show that to you, because that's pretty cool. Let's bring this up. So this is the audio interface, the software interface for it. So here's Ryan. You can see him right here. And let me select his mic here. All the inputs for him are up here, and one of those controls is the main output. So this is the main output. His microphone, Ryan's mic, is not set to the main output. If you look at my mic, see that is going to the main output. That's why you can hear me. Put his mic on here, he is not on the main output. He is, however, coming into my ear, and that's through, oh boy, so we just changed how this is all working. Here, the sends, I'm plugged into, my wireless mic is plugged into bus 4. This is Ryan on bus 4, so his volumes are up on here, so I can hear him talking. But if I do this, let's go back to the main mic. Ryan, go ahead and say something. There you go. So you could, I have no idea what he just said. That was like, I put him on the spot there, and he went, blah, 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 blah. But that was Ryan. So I can, or he can, because he has the same control that I do, he can send his voice out on the air if he wants to. That's what's so cool about this, and one of the many things that's so cool about this interface is that we can both control it. Because it's all software controlled, we both have the same interface. And if I see him if I make a change, he'll see it in real time. If he makes a change, I see it in real time. It's pretty awesome. But that's how the whole thing works. So again, we'll link below to the actual mic that I'm using, and this audio interface, the Behringer X Air16. And that's how that works. And incidentally, so this is, right, 16, isn't that right? Yeah, this is the 16. There is a model up from this. I think is it a 20 or 24? Or I forget the number. But the next model up from this has more inputs. That's what the number is. But one of the big advantages of the next model up is it will record the entire program on ISOs. Every single input will be recorded ISOs. I mean, isolated, you'll have just that input recorded as a separate track. On here, I can only record a stereo track, and I can send anything to left channel, and anything else to right channel. It can be a mix, it can be a single channel. That's pretty awesome in itself. But with the bigger one, you can actually record everything isolated. It's an incredible interface. This Behringer thing is just off the hook cool. So anyway, that's the answer to that question. All right, let's see here. Martin Pitt, scroll back up here. Martin Pitt, do you think the GH5, etc. menus could do with some reordering and tidying up to make things easier to find? Well, everything could always be better, right? The GH5 was the first of its new interface. That was a major step up from what we had before because it grouped things together. Believe me, we are all well aware that these interfaces are getting ridiculous, right? There's just so much stuff inside of what is really ultimately designed to be a very simple interface. The interface as it is today with just page after page after page of options is not ideal. I can promise you that companies are aware of this issue. These sort of things are being thought of, and that's about where I'll leave it. These things are being considered and thought of. You will not be looking at menus like this forever from any manufacturer. Every manufacturer out there is looking at this going, this is ridiculous, there's got to be a better way. Because it's just getting worse and worse. Because we keep adding more and more features. You think about your first or earlier digital cameras that had like 5 options on them, you stick them on a menu. And that's, I guarantee that's how this was originally designed, right? You have 5 things, we'll just put them on a list, done. And suddenly you have 20 things, you're like, well, it can still be a list. And then you have 100, and you're like, well, crap, this list is a little extensive. So, you know, companies are thinking about it, it'll get better, but not today. Ask Irving, what RAW editor do you recommend on iOS? I'm currently using Snapseed, but wonder if there are better options. Cool question. Excuse me. I don't have a single RAW editor that I use all the time on iOS. I really do jump around a lot. If there was any one major app, it would be Lightroom Mobile, and that's because I am paying for the Lightroom suite and even just the photography bundle, right? Because I use Lightroom on the desktop. Have Photoshop, so I use that occasionally as well. And then I do use Lightroom Mobile on the iPad. But I don't have a specific app that I will go to because it's RAW. It really comes down to just what I want to do with it. I love Snapseed. I think Snapseed is super cool. I'm going to do some more videos on Snapseed in the not too distant future because they've had some major updates, and I think it's really a phenomenal app. Let me see. Let's take a look at my iPad right now. What else is on here? Affinity Photo, a very, very good app. Visco, I don't think Visco does any RAW processing. I think they just pull from the JPEG. So yeah, if you look at the top row of icons on my iPad, let's see here we go. You can see the very top row right there. You've got Lightroom, Snapseed, Visco, and Affinity Photo. And then if you look in there, Metaphor Camera, Photoshop Fix, Prime RAW. Those are the only things I have in there. Prime RAW, we have discovered, may not be actually working with is that right? No, that can't be right. I'm thinking of something else that's not working with the actual RAW file. I take that back. So Prime RAW must be working with the RAW file because it's called RAW. There's another app out there that I did some training on a while ago that we recently discovered wasn't actually working with the RAW file. Tisk, tisk. Anyway, those are the apps that I use. The ones that are on the top there, Lightroom, Snapseed, and Affinity Photo are the ones I use the most. Okay, Matt Diver says, I know you like the GX85. I do. Have you used it for video? I have. I have the GX80 UK and find the video settings limited. Would love 1080p or slow motion. You have 1080p. Oh, specifically slow motion. I guess you don't, do you? Okay, no, fair enough. Yeah, I guess you don't have slow motion in there. I do. I have used it. I love it. Now, the biggest limitation on the GX85 for shooting video, in my mind, is you can't plug in an external microphone. So it's got its own built-in, on-camera mic. This is not the GX85, obviously, which, great, records ambient sound, but we all know it's not going to be great. If you want really good audio, you would have to record it separately and sync it up. So at that point, you're like, well, let's just shoot with a proper cinema-type camera like the GH5. But it shoots phenomenal video as long as you're shooting at like standard 4K 30p. I think would be the maximum. It doesn't do 60, and I guess like you're saying, it doesn't do slow motion. So if you want slow motion, you're going to have to go to a GH5 or some other model that has it. I don't know which all models have it, but it does do a beautiful job. In fact, and I'll link to this right up here. Last January, I was in Oaxaca, Mexico for a workshop, and I was leading a photography workshop along with my friend Eric Meindling, and I shot a bunch of video of the workshop, of the attendees, just of us doing our thing. And I'll link, again, that's what I was linking to up here, is a video that I did edited about that workshop. And that video is probably, I don't know, maybe 50 or 70% shot on the GX85. Some of it was shot on the GH4s, this is pre-GH5, and some of it might even been on the GX8, because I had that camera with me too. But the vast majority was shot on the GX85, and it looks fantastic. And also, we'll link to this one as well up here. I did a video for Panasonic on the GX85 in New Orleans. This is now probably coming up 2 years ago, maybe even more than that. And the video in there, you'll see, it's kind of clear in there which was shot. Well, basically anything with me in the shot, it was shot on GH4, again, predating GH5, was shot on GH4, and that was a DP that was on set with the camera and a rig shooting me. But then, like, you'd see a video of me holding the GX85 shooting something, and then you'd see what I was shooting, and then in that case, that video would be shot with the GX85. So there's a mix of it in there, but in both cases, the GX85 makes tremendous video. So yeah, it's limited. You have 4K 30, not 4K 60. You don't have slow motion, apparently. You don't have the microphone input, but it is a great, great camera. I love it, absolutely love it. Okay. Let's see here. Next up, Imaging says, did you get a chance to see photos in iOS 12 and Mojave betas? Anything interesting? I read about Raw Edit on iPad Pro. Okay, so I have not installed them yet, if that's what you're asking. I've watched the keynote, obviously. We did the simulcast here. I don't know anything more than what was in the keynote. If there was any more published, I haven't even read it. Like I said, I've been out sick, so kind of after the keynote, I did my edited videos and then collapsed and went home. So I don't. If there's anything else in there, I'm not aware of it yet. I will clearly have to do some homework on that. Let's see here. Rogue Christian says, the new Night View 2.3 doesn't work with C1 to C3 dial settings. Night View 2.3. Oh, you're talking in the 2.3 update on the GH5, the Night View doesn't work with the C1 to C3 dial settings. Interesting. Okay, so you're saying, all right, this camera is updated. I updated all of them. You're saying if I go into the C1, C2, C3 settings, I can't activate Night View. Is that what you're saying? Let me find Night View in the settings here, because I don't remember where anything is. And I will verify this. Let's see here. No, it's not there. That is under the wrench menu, isn't it? Wireless Night View. Okay, night mode. Okay, so night mode. Let's plug this in. Let me do this real quick. Although you're not going to see the night mode coming out, but at least you'll be able to see the there it is. See the menu settings. It's like the world's biggest XLR cable. Good grief, and it's tangled. Okay. I mean XLR, HDMI-C. There you go. That shows you I'm not feeling it right now. All right, that is plugged in. And there we go. It's up on the menu system. Up on the screen. Okay. Okay, that is massively overexposed. That's okay. All right, so we go into the menus, night mode. And so we are in standard video mode right now. Or if we go into standard stills mode, I'll go to shutter priority. Night mode is available. Go into the C1 setting. And, oh, you're not seeing the menus anymore because I've disabled that. But I have night mode. Yep, I have it. It's still here. Yeah, I can activate it. Let me make sure. Oops, let's go monitor on. Monitor or LVF? Oh, well, hold on a second. Maybe you're onto something here. Night mode. Let me unplug this, make sure that's not screwing with things. Interesting. Right, I choose night mode on monitor and nothing happens. Is it showing up in the LVF? Oh, I gotta switch that over. Huh. Let me try a different one. I'm going to C2. Night mode, turn them on. You are correct, sir. You are correct. I would say that this is a bug, because there's no reason that I can think of that shouldn't be happening. Very, very interesting. Thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. I will report that because I do believe that is a bug. Ryan, please write that down so I don't forget. That is fantastic. Thanks, Rogue. Really appreciate that. Jake Uptill saying the only thing with the XR18, so I guess that's the bigger one from the X16 here, XR16, is that you need an external DAW to record individual channels. The USB port is an 18-in-out interface instead of being able to plug in a USB stick and record 2 channels. Oh, really? Well, that's interesting, Jake. I didn't know that. Very interesting. Okay, so what he's saying is, again, this audio interface that we were talking about earlier, this USB, you can't see the light. There's a little light next to it that says it's recording. It's kind of hard to tell at this angle, but that is a USB memory stick that's plugged into it that is right now actively recording this show, recording a stereo channel. I was saying at the beginning of the show that the next one up, so it's an XR18 is the next one up, records all the 18 channels individually, but Jake is saying that you would have to use an external recorder. It wouldn't record all 18 channels to the USB memory stick. Very interesting. Okay, see, look, I learn something every day. Okay, Construction Podcast says, which app do you use to develop RAW? Can you describe your workflow? Sure. My workflow is pretty straightforward. I use Lightroom, and I'm using Lightroom Classic for the vast majority of things. I keep on trying to use what is it called? Well, now it's just called Adobe Lightroom, right? The CC. The one that is the cloud-based one, because I really, really, really like that idea of having everything on everywhere, but it just doesn't have the feature set yet. It's getting there, right? They keep adding stuff to it, but it's not there yet, and I can't stop using Classic yet. But I'm excited to be able to, because I do like everything there. But no, pretty much everything is in Lightroom Classic. I do use Apple Photos for just personal family stuff, so all my iPhone pictures obviously go there. If I shoot like my kid's birthday party with a proper camera, then those go into Apple Photos. But any client or personal project work goes into Lightroom. So, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing really special. I'm not using Lightroom in any fancy special way. I'm using it as it is designed, so there's not much to describe there. Kenneth McComas says, have you tried the soon-to-be-released 50 to 200 f2.8 to 4 lens yet? I have not, but as soon as I have my hands on one, you guys will be the first to hear about it. Construction Podcast says, what settings do you use to get the flat video profile without Vlog? I don't know, because I shoot Vlog. If you don't have Vlog and you want the flattest profile possible, then you would shoot the Cine D. That is the Cine-like mode, so it's like Cine and D for dynamic range. So Cine-like D would be your closest to Vlog without actually shooting Vlog. So that's your closest way to go. Otherwise, get the Vlog upgrade. If you are willing to go through the extra steps to shoot that way, then go for it. Another thing, if you're using the GH5, and I have yet to shoot in this mode, it's just one of those things where I need to take a good chunk of time to work on it, but the new HLG, the hybrid log gamma mode that's in there, supposedly, I haven't verified this myself, but supposedly you can actually get even more dynamic range out of that than you can out of Vlog. However, your look is essentially baked into it, so you don't have as much latitude as you do with Vlog. So for me, I think that I still prefer to work in Vlog, but I've got to at one point sit down and really take a look at this because that's kind of awesome. I think it really is. Okay. Kit Griffin says, I've already got that up. How do you cull your images down, the ones you need, from hundreds or perhaps thousands of photos? Well, that's a very good question. Okay, that's an easy one. So my workflow, let's say that I come back from a shoot and I've got 1,000 pictures. My workflow, and I've taught this workflow time and time again. I'm using the same one. My belief is that you only see the best photos when you have seen them multiple times. When I see there's a question up on the, on what's that thing? Twitch as well. I'll come to you in just a moment, Starlord. Great name. Sorry, where was I? Okay, so my belief is you need to see the photos multiple times to really make a decision whether it's good or not. And so here's what I do. I start off with all my photos at 0 rating. That's how they get imported. They have no stars, no ratings, no flags, nothing. And I go through them one by one. And as I'm looking at them, if I see a photo that I like, I think, oh, that's a decent photo, it gets 3 stars. So right in the middle of your star rating from 0 to 5, it gets, well, from 1 to 5, it gets the 3-star rating. If it's a clear reject, out of focus, lens cap on, whatever, then it gets hit as a reject. So that just boomed, so that's out. But if I like the photo well enough to think, oh, this actually might be halfway decent, it gets 3 stars. If I look at it and go, no chance I'm going to show that to the client or whatever it is, then it gets nothing. Then I filter, so I go do that from all the way through. So I go through all 1,000 photos. And then I filter by 3 stars. And let's say that I got, 200 out of the 3 stars. That'd be pretty aggressive. But let's just say I had 200 out of that. Then I go through them again. And now I got my fingers on the plus and minus. And I look at them, is that right? Or the 4, can I do plus and minus? I don't even remember now. God, see, this is where my head is. I'm like mixing apps. Anyway, I upgrade or downgrade. So from 3 stars, it goes to 4-star or down to 2-star. Or I leave it alone. So I look at a photo, and now I've seen all these other photos. I've seen every photo in the batch now. And do I go, I still think this is a pretty strong photo, in which case it gets upgraded to 4 stars. Or, ooh, I've seen better photos than this now that I've seen all of them, it gets downgraded to 2 stars. If I look at it and go, I still feel the same about it, it gets left as a 3. So I do that all the way through. And then I filter by my 4 stars. And now I repeat the process a 3rd time. So now I'm looking at just my 4-star photos. I'm looking at it now for the 3rd time, and I'm going, ooh, I actually still really like, I think this is a really good photo. It gets upgraded again to 5 stars. Feels weak compared to the others now, down to 2, feeling neutral about it, or down to 3, feeling neutral about it, leave it at 4. And so now I've got 2, 3, 4, and 5-star rated photos. If I get to 5 and I still have too many, or I don't have enough, then I basically repeat the process. So if I have 5, let's say I'm now at 5 stars, and I look at them, let's say I need 10 to deliver, but I've got 20. Okay, well now I'm gonna go through those 5s again a couple times and decide which ones to pull back to a 4-star rating. And I'll do that until I've got enough 5-star photos. Or if I don't have enough, right, say I wanted 10 and I only came up with 5 of them, I'll go back to my 4 stars only, right, limit it to just 4 stars only, not 4-star and above, 4-star only, look at those and find a couple of there that I feel like, all right, I can raise this up to 5-star. So that's my workflow. Hopefully that helps. Okay, on the Twitch side of things, Solar Starlord says, I just learned 2 of the greatest things in the... Okay, never mind. That's not a question. Solar, please, by all means, ask a real question. I would love to have a Twitch question on here. Okay, let's see here. Where are we? We are... Where were we? Bring these back up on here. Okay, Alpha Phi Production says, when you use VFR on the GH5S, what picture profile do you use? Whatever picture profile I'm using for everything else. So if I'm on a shoot, I'm gonna keep the profile the same always, and I'm usually shooting in Vlog, so it would be in Vlog. But yeah, I don't change the picture profile if I go into VFR mode. Tony Hill, referencing night mode works fine on the G9 and C settings. Oh, that's interesting, okay. All right, G9. No battery. Let's try this. Thank you. That's great, because I was doing it on the G5, so let's grab the G9 here, and let's see if I see the same thing as you do. And if it, I mean, obviously I believe you, but this will confirm my assertion that this was a bug on the GH5. So, all right, so I'm in aperture priority mode. I'm gonna go in and find the night mode, night mode, night mode, night mode. There we go, night mode. Night mode on the monitor, works perfectly fine. Okay, now I switch this over to C1 and night mode, and it works fine as well. Yep. I wonder, I wonder if there's anything to do with all of my C modes on here on the G9 are for still photography. All my C modes on the GH5 are for video. Shouldn't make any difference though, because night mode should work regardless. Obviously it worked when I was in the video mode. So yeah, I'm calling that a bug. Thank you very much. And Tony, thank you for saying that as well. That really helps. Matt Driver says, will you be borrowing an Epiphan Pearl Mini for review anytime soon? Yes, Matt. Epiphan will be shipping one to me before shipping, supposedly, before shipping to the public. I will have one for review so that I can do a review analysis, show you guys how it all works at the same time that the thing is actually shipping. So that is the goal. We have discussed that already. And yes, I'm very much looking forward to it. Burns Tech says, I just tried the C1, C3, C3 night mode on my GH5 with the latest firmware, and I can also confirm it does not work. Okay, Burns, thank you. So that's another confirmation. Serge is asking how you can post a URL in here. You just type it out like, you know, Apple and then space and then dot and then space com, and then people will have to fill in the blanks on that. That's the only way you can do it. Yeah, because otherwise if you just paste in a link, it'll get rejected. And then we can't control that, that's automatic. Okay, no other questions on there yet. So if you have any other questions, you know what to do. Now's your chance to get them in there. Burns Text, what's my Twitch name? Same as every other, PhotoJoseph, everywhere. It's PhotoJoseph on Twitch as well. Bing N says, my question was either deleted or hidden, asking again, how do you treat the noise, okay, for your GH5 footage in Vlog-L? Do you use Red Giant's denoiser or Neat Video? I don't use any denoisers. I think treating the noise, I actually have this written down as a topic to do a video on. It's just, you know, another one of those on my long list of ones that I will have to do some prep work for. Okay, so 2 parts. It's a two type of answer question. I've never used any of these denoisers. Red Giant's denoiser, Neat Video, I haven't used those. There's others out there. I haven't used any of them. I never have actually installed a denoiser in Final Cut Pro. I probably should at some point. I'm sure it'd be handy. Never have. If you're dealing with noise in Vlog, you need to shoot, you need to overexpose more. Right, Vlog, the way Vlog is designed to be shot, and I cover this quite a bit in my in my GH5 training. So again, if you haven't seen that, let me just pull that up again. I gotta remember how to do this the way since I don't have a shortcut set up for it. If you are, I totally forgot how to do this. All right, well, I'm gonna do this instead. I'm gonna bring this up, the value for value slide, because then I can swap it out more easily. The value for value slide, hey, this is to remind you that if you learned anything from today's show, please consider heading over to PhotoJoseph.com/support and throwing some value back at me to help support the show. One of the ways you can do that is by buying the GH5 training if you are a GH5 user. So this is covered in the GH5 training. We talk about how to shoot vlog, and one of the main things is shooting overexposed. You want to shoot more overexposed than you normally. You can't overexpose, like blast it. You still have to very, very carefully watch your levels and make sure that you don't peak it, because just like anything else, if you go over the peak, you are going to clip your highlights, and that's not good. But you want to shoot for maximum highlights as opposed to maximizing your shadows. You want to make, your shadows will look bright, and that's fine, because you can go in post and pull your blacks down, it'll pull all the shadows down, and any noise that's there will end up getting hidden. If, however, you shoot for your shadows, and then by the time you stretch it out to make it look like a normal exposure, your shadows are gonna go to hell, and you're gonna end up with a lot of grain in there, a lot of noise in there rather. So you need to shoot high. You're shooting bright when you're shooting vlog. That's just the way vlog is. So again, I've covered that in the training. I will do a video exclusively about that at some point. It is on my list, but that's about the best tip that I have for you right now. Serge says, just look where the sharpness is on those photos. I'm not sure what you mean, Serge. Okay, so that, I guess that's that. Yes. All right, cool. Well, we're gonna wrap it up there because that is as good a time as any, and I'm tired. It's being sick sucks, guys. I highly avoid doing it. Probably should have shook fewer hands when I was down in LA at Cinegear. Okay, that's it, guys. Thanks very much for tuning in today. That was kind of fun. I love having these like totally random, all over the place questions. Get to test my knowledge, and I learn a thing or two, like when there's a bug in the software that I can now report to Panasonic, and hopefully we'll get that addressed sometime soon. Thanks a bunch, everybody, for tuning in. Friday's show will be back to normal. I have an idea what Friday's show is going to be, but I'm not going to tell you yet because it depends on something else, but it'll be kind of cool. Take care of yourself, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.